Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 56 based on novel. So let's start. Eastern Xian region, Yuan Gate. The huge sect was still as magnificent as before. High up and surrounded by clouds, it had a grand and majestic atmosphere. Countless figures flew and shuttled in the air as rushing wind sound rose and fell. There was a huge hall deep within the Yuan Gate. Countless golden light spots flickered within the hall. They were the Yuan spirit imprints left behind by Yuan Gate's elite disciples. Through these Yuan spirit imprints, the Yuan Gate was able to know if these elite disciples were dead or alive. This huge hall was also heavily fortified by the Yuan Gate. There were disciples constantly taking care of this place and whose duties were to observe the various changes of the Yuan spirit imprints. There were 3 golden light clusters floating near the center of the huge hall. The ripples emitted from within were quite powerful. Clearly, the owners of these Yuan spirit imprints were quite powerful. A couple of Yuan Gate's disciples were slowly walking within the hall as they observed those Yuan spirit imprint. Suddenly, they halted. They lifted their heads somewhat in doubt and looked at those 3 clusters of golden light. Soon after, a trace of shock surged within their eyes. That was because they noticed that tiny cracks had actually appeared on those 3 golden light clusters. Bang! The 3 golden light clusters suddenly exploded in front of these disciples. At the same time, a panic-stricken voice filled with fear sounded out. Lin Dong, he has... The terrified voice came to a sudden halt. However, that sound of terror and despair contained within caused those Yuan Gate's disciples in the hall to quickly turn pale. Those are the Yuan spirit imprints left behind by the senior Hui Yuan trio. Quick, go and inform the chief. The quiet hall quickly became chaotic. Many disciples staggered and turned around before they subsequently charged out hurriedly. After a few disciples left, a strange and unknown panic continued to linger within the hall. The remaining Yuan Gate's disciples faced each other with dim and uncertain expressions. Did that previous Yuan spirit message mention Lin Dong? Which Lin Dong? Don't tell me that it is the same fellow from the Dao Sect a year ago. How is it possible that he is still alive? I'm afraid that it is most likely referring to that fellow. Heavens, it has only been a year. How could he possibly be a match for Senior Hui Yuan's group? Based on what I know, Senior Hui Yuan's group has stepped into the profound death stage. This is sufficient for them to take on the position of an elder in our sect. Many stealthy whispers spread within the hall. The eyes of those Yuan Gate's disciples were filled with shock and disbelief. Who could have imagined that this young man, whom they had chased away like a homeless stray a year ago, was not only still alive but also growing at such a shocking pace? Lin Dong, he has... 3 figures were seated on the top of a mountain, deep within the Yuan Gate. The space around them was slightly distorted. Vast and mighty Yuan power churned as they breathed. It was even vaguely accompanied by the sound of thunder. Within the Yuan Gate, who else beside the 3 giant chiefs could possess such a mighty aura? At the moment, Yuan Gate's 3 hegemons were wearing a grave expression as they observed the weak golden light hovering in front of them. That terrified voice was constantly repeated. It is indeed Hui Yuan's voice. From the looks of it, his Yuan spirit had been completely crushed. Ren Yuanzi lowered his eyes and spoke faintly. That little brat called Lin Dong is still alive. Yuanzi slowly said. His voice contained some doubt. He has grown by such an extent after just 1 year. The Hui Yuan trio are peak profound death stage experts and there are demon seeds within their bodies. Even an advanced profound death stage expert is unable to deal with them if they joined forces. That Lin Dong, did he really do it? That brat is no ordinary individual. Seated in between them, Yuanzi slowly opened his eyes. His deep and sunken eyes had an obscure expression flashing across them. The loss of the Hui Yuan trio is inconsequential. However, there are demon seeds within their bodies. If others were to learn of it, it would bring quite a great deal of trouble for us. Right now, there are peak-level experts in this world who have begun to notice the Yimo. What should we do then? Ren Yuanzi narrowed his eyes while a black glow flashed across them. Start the plan. Chen Yuanzi mused for a moment and replied indifferently. Oh? Are we going to bring forward our plans? In that case, the Eastern Xian region will become very lively. This place has been quiet for far too long during the past 1,000 years. Di Yuanzi laughed softly. Chen Yuanzi's baby-like fair face also revealed a gentle smile. However, his smile was filled with an endless chill. The current situation, in which the Eastern Xian region is dominated by several equally powerful factions, will come to an end. Our Yuan Gate shall be the only king. Ha ha, of course, our ambitions will not halt here. What about that Lin Dong? He will likely be a major source of trouble if we do not eliminate him. Ren Yuanzi said. Hua Chen is heading over to the chaotic demon sea. Send a message to him and instruct him to eliminate this brat in the chaotic demon sea. Chen Yuanzi softly said. With Hua Chen dealing with him, it will be near impossible for Lin Dong to escape. Chen Yuanzi laughed faintly. Promptly, he lifted his head and looked towards the distant sky. The vicious words that the skinny young man left behind as he fled still lingered in his heart. The day where your sect is destroyed. A merciless icy chill ridicule flashed across Chen Yuanzi's eyes. He was a mere ant. By the time Lin Dong returned to the Eastern Xian region, he would only see the ruins of his Dao sect. The matter that had occurred in the Yuan Gate's Yuan Spirit Hall also spread throughout the Yuan Gate like a virus. That name, which had disappeared for over a year, remained like a thorn within Yuan Gate's heart, causing those who heard it to suffer. Although the upper echelon of the Yuan Gate had quickly stepped in to block the news, it was only natural that there were many spies from other sects in such a huge faction. Hence, this information was accompanied by some shock as it quietly spread across the Eastern Xian region at a rapid rate. Dao Sect. Ying Xuanzi sat on the leader's seat within a huge hall. In 1 year's time, additional strands of white hair have appeared on the chief's head, causing him to look exceptionally old. Lin Dong has appeared in the Chaos Sea region. He has even killed the Huiyuan trio from the Yuan Gate. Those 3 fellows are rumored to be at the initial profound death stage. The previous 3 little kings of the Yuan Gate. Ying Xuanzi placed his hand on the back of the chair while he gently rubbed them. After which, he glanced at the head of the desolate hall, Chen Zhen, who was standing in front of him. His usually deep and indifferent eyes currently had a light flickering within them. Behind Ying Xuanzi stood a lovely Ying Xiaoxiao. Right now, she had a shocked and bewildered expression on her face. Half a moment later, her shock slowly turned into excitement. In fact, due to her overwhelming feelings, tear droplets actually appeared in her beautiful eyes. After 1 year's time, they had finally received news about Lin Dong. This information is indeed true, and it has come from the Yuan Gate. There is definitely no one else with the same name. That boy Lin Dong is still alive. Moreover, from the looks of it, his powers have soared. Even I would not be able to deal with 3 initial profound death stage experts. Chen Zhen's elderly face was filled with excitement. This emotion had not appeared on his face for quite a long time. That boy. Ying Xuanzi exhaled gently. The expression in his eyes were a little complicated. Finally, he muttered, I am glad that he is alive, glad that he is alive. This news has currently spread across the Dao sect. Those little rascals are all incredibly excited. It has been a long time since they have acted like this, Chen Zhen laughed. Ying Xuanzi nodded slightly. Promptly, as if he seemed to have remembered something, the expression in his eyes dimmed. He turned towards Ying Xiaoxiao and asked, Is that lash Ying Huan still in retreat? Ying Xiaoxiao hesitated for a moment before nodding. Since the incident at the Unique Devil City 1 year ago, Ying Huan went into a retreat after returning to the sect, and she seldom surfaced. Even Ying Xuanzi rarely saw her. Of course, this was partially because that lass was deliberately avoiding him. Ying Xuanzi sighed. He quickly waved his hand helplessly. Go and tell her the news. Ying Xiaoxiao felt her nose turn sour when she saw Ying Xuanzi's lethargic expression. She nodded gently, turned around and left the hall. After which, she rushed towards the deep parts of the Tao sect and only landed on a quiet deep mountain over 10 minutes later. This large mountain was extremely cold. A chilling aura spread from its deeper parts. This caused a frost to hang over all the trees within the mountain. There was a clear lake deep within the huge mountain. However, the lake was currently covered by a layer of cold air and the surface of the lake had turned into blue hard ice. Ying Xiaoxiao landed on the lake. Lifting her head up, she saw a delicate figure seated on an ice lotus in the middle of the lake. Her icy blue long hair was scattered and looking from a distance away, she appeared like a crystal clear fairy sitting on ice. Ying Xiaoxiao looked at this icy cold lady, who was a saucy and lively girl 1 year ago, before her expression dimmed. "Elder sister, what happened?" The young lady on the ice lotus gently opened her eyes. Her originally dark black crystal-like eyes had currently turned into an icy blue color. Her long hair draped down from the side of her face and there was also a clear icy blue symbol on her brow. It gave her an cold ice queen-esque beauty. In merely 1 year's time, the girl from back then seemed to have become prettier and more mature. Her childlike beauty from back then had gradually developed to the point whereby she was able to mesmerize the crowd. However, her beauty also contained a faint unfamiliarity. It was like an iciness that she was born with. Ying Xiaoxiao sighed softly in her heart. She smiled and said, "We have news about Lin Dong." When she uttered those words, Ying Xiaoxiao saw the cold, rippleless icy lake-like eyes of that young lady, suddenly becoming a little chaotic. Chaotic emotional fluctuations were like ripples that emerged within Ying Huanhuan's frozen lake-like eyes. In that moment, this young lady on the ice lotus seemed to have been awoken from her frozen state. The liveliness, which had vanished for a year, had recovered a little because of this name. Ying Xiaoxiao looked at the drastically changing young lady and could not help but bitterly laugh. Love was a rather harmful word. Is he all right? Ying Huanhuan bit her red lips. Her originally clear and sweet voice was currently accompanied by a tremble. Her eyes seemed like fragile crystals that would crack at any moment. Yes. Ying Xiaoxiao nodded. Soon after, she smiled. He should currently be in chaotic Demon Sea. It seems that he has met the previous generation's 3 little kings, the Hui Yuan trio. Hui Yuan. Ying Huanhuan's eyes hardened. There seemed to be a blade-like iciness surging within her eyes. There is no need to worry. That fellow now is quite extraordinary. The Hui Yuan trio fought him, only to end up being killed at his hands. A great commotion has broken out in the Yuan Gate because of this. Ying Xiaoxiao hurriedly said after seeing the young lady's expression. The icy aura within Ying Huanhuan's eyes, which could chill one's soul, weakened only after she heard these words. She slightly lowered her head and looked at the frozen mirror-like lake and softly said, "That hateful fellow, he promised me that he will not die. If he lies to me, I will retrieve him even if I have to break apart reincarnation." Ying Xiaoxiao stepped forward. Her hand involuntarily touched the young lady's unusually icy face and spoke pitifully, "Since you now have some information about him, there is no need for you to continue shutting yourself up like this, right? Father cannot be blamed for what happened back then." Ying Huanhuan gently lowered her eyes and said, "I know. I do not blame Father. I can only blame myself for being useless. Each and every time, all I can do is to stand behind him and watch him fight alone." The young lady seemed to have recalled the exceptionally miserable sight of the thin blood-drenched figure who had fought against the 3 great sect masters of the Yuan Gate a year ago. Her eyes turned a little red. Immediately, she deeply inhaled a breath of air. She worked hard to show a smile on her pretty face. "I wish to become stronger. Elder sister should be aware of his character. Once he returns to the eastern Xian region, he will definitely attack the Yuan Gate. I wish to lend him a hand when that time comes. This time around, I want to stand beside him and not hide behind him." Ying Xiaoxiao looked at the young lady who had smiled. It was a smile that was stubborn and beautiful. A long while later, she sighed as her finger stroked the mysterious and complicated ancient symbol on Ying Huanhuan's brow. Her eyes involuntarily reddened when she thought of how her sister, who was as lively as a pixie back then, was now cold as ice. I am aware that your strength is continuously increasing. However, you should know just what kind of drastic change you will have undergo in order for this to happen. Lin Dong will not wish to see you transform in that manner. The smile on Ying Huan's face was slowly withdrawn. She extended her slender arms and hugged her knees. Her curled-up body caused her to appear a little more delicate. She did not tell Ying Xiaoxiao that with the swift increase in her strength, she had discovered that some other memories had started to appear in her head. She did not know whether this transformation was good or bad. However, she clearly understood just what kind of power Lin Dong needed in order to take revenge on the Yuan Gate. The only method she had to help him was this. Elder sister, don't worry. The young lady lifted her head slightly a long while later. Sunlight scattered downwards, creating a beautiful luster on her face. As long as he returns safely, I will always be Ying Huan. Ying Xiaoxiao looked at the young lady. In the end, she softly sighed in her heart. After which, she extended her hand and hugged the young lady. The latter was now undoubtedly much more mature compared to the past. However, this ice-cold maturity caused the former to feel a slight ache in her heart. Ying Huan gently leaned on Ying Xiaoxiao as her icy blue eyes looked towards the sky. A familiar skinny figure seemed to appear where she looked as the corners of her mouth lifted into a gentle arc. If you return, I will stand at your side and block everyone who wants to kill you. If you leave, I will slaughter the Yuan Gate for you. Even if I have to step into a sea of blood, my heart will be like ice. While news of the Huiyuan trio stirred a great commotion within the eastern Xian region, the main character, Lin Dong, had long since brought Mu Lingshan with him and hurriedly left for the sea region that had started to become the focus of the entire chaotic demon sea. The so-called lightning competition that the Flame Divine Hall had organized this time around was an extremely grand event in the chaotic demon sea. Its scale was many times grander than the martial gathering that the 5 clans of the Heaven Wind Sea region had held. The ability of the Flame Divine Hall to gather people was not something that the 5 great clans could compare with. Of course, part of the reason was naturally also because of the allure of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. Although many people felt some doubt that the Flame Divine Hall would actually put forth an extremely rare divine object like the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol as the prize, it still caused the hearts of countless individuals to boil. Regardless of how intense the competition was, they must at least try for such a divine object. Big Brother Lin Dong, the competition that the Flame Divine Hall is holding is really extremely lively. A huge whale swiftly crossed the sea of a certain sea region. Mu Lingshan was seated on the back of the whale. Her large eyes were looking all around her. It was possible to see many huge ships and various speeding sea beasts on this route. Moreover, their destination was the same. Clearly, these people were heading towards the Flame Sea region. Lin Dong smiled and nodded upon hearing this. This Flame Sea region had likely become the focus of the entire chaotic demon sea. The allure of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol was indeed terrifying. Does Big Brother Lin Dong also plan to join the competition? Given your current strength, you will definitely be able to obtain a rather good result. Mu Lingshan smiled as she spoke. Lin Dong lazily stretched his waist and laughed. Let's look at the situation first. I am not too interested in becoming the champion. However, there is something there that belongs to me. I must take it back. Mo Luo had taken away a Thunderbolt essence from the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. Although it was not much harm, Lin Dong was able to vaguely detect a kind of defect after having completely refined the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. This defect was not obvious. If another 100 years passed, this Thunderbolt ancestral symbol would perhaps be able to repair the defect by itself. Unfortunately, Lin Dong did not wish to wait for such a long time. He was a perfectionist. Since he had obtained the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol, he was naturally unwilling for a defect to be present in such a divine object. Therefore, he must take back that missing Thunderbolt essence. Big Brother Lin Dong, you are currently ranked 9th on the rookie list of the chaotic demon sea. Mu Lingshan flipped her hand as a golden scroll appeared in it. Light was partially present on the scroll. One could vaguely see the words, Rookie List, on it. This object was created from a faction called the Fate Pavilion of the Chaotic Demon Sea and possessed some authority. Those who were able to get onto the ranking were the most outstanding amongst the younger generation of the chaotic demon sea. Lin Dong smiled as he received the scroll from Mu Lingshan. There was an energy fluctuation on the scroll. Clearly, this was also a kind of spirit treasure. His eyes swept over it and saw a row of tiny glowing words on the 9th position. 9th on the rookie list, Lin Dong, perfect profound life stage, peak initial divine symbol master, a member of the Dao sect from the Eastern Xian region. He killed 5 initial profound death stage experts with his own strength in the Sky Lightning Sea region. He is ranked 9 because his skills are unknown. What a powerful information network. Lin Dong lifted his brow. This Fate Pavilion did indeed possess some ability. They had already learnt of what had only occurred a couple of days ago. Moreover, they even managed to clearly state that he was from the Dao sect of the Eastern Xian region. This information-gathering ability was really admirable. Big Brother Lin Dong, it is rumored that these top 10 on the rookie list will all participate in the competition. None of them are easy to deal with. Mu Lingshan laughed. Lin Dong nodded. He was only ranked 9th even after his battle achievements in the Sky Lightning Sea region. From this, it was possible to tell just how strong the people on this rookie list were. Lin Dong's eyes moved up along the scroll. Even with Lin Dong's character, he was still quite curious about those ranked above him. This was because he was clearly aware that those who could make it into the top 10 would definitely be considered monsters. 8th on the rookie list, Li Lin from the Sky Shark Sect. Initial profound death stage. He has a ruthless character and killed 2 experts at the same level as him in a head-on clash. 5th on the rookies list, Dark Demon Tenkue from the Dark Sea Stream. Advanced Divine Symbol Master. He once fought against an advanced profound death stage expert and managed to escape unhurt by relying on his superb mental energy cultivation. 3rd on the rookie list, Little Elephant King of Thousand Elephant Mountain. He has perfected the 1,000 Elephants heavenly skill and possessed the power of 1,000 elephants. 2nd on the rookie list, Fire Fairy Tang Xinlian from the Flame Divine Hall. First disciple of the blazing ancestral symbol owner, Mo Luo. The successor to the Flame Divine Hall. Lin Dong's brow lifted when he saw the top 3 names. This was because he discovered that the cultivation level of these 3 people was not made clear. However, the simple description was sufficient for one to feel their great strength. Lin Dong's gaze shifted upwards again, looking towards the top of the rookie list. Immediately, his eyes narrowed slightly. First on the rookie list, Faceless Person Xu Xiao. Once killed an advanced profound death stage expert. Faceless Person, Xu Xiao. Lin Dong looked at the peculiar nickname given to the top-ranked individual on the rookie list, before he involuntarily raised his eyebrows. Seems like a rather strange and mysterious fellow, huh? With regards to the strength of this so-called faceless person, Lin Dong did not have doubts at all. To have gained the approval from everyone in the chaotic demon sea, where countless experts and monstrous geniuses lurked, there was no way he could have accomplished this feat by luck. Xu Xiao is extremely powerful. Furthermore, it is reputed that he does not belong to any sect. Moreover, he hardly leaves any clues about his whereabouts, and despite the Fate Pavilion's superior information-gathering capabilities, they were only able to glean some superficial information on him. Sticking her tiny head over, Mu Lingshan took a glance at the spot where Lin Dong was staring at, before giggling while saying, "That fellow's the same as Big Brother Lin Dong." He suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It was 1 year ago that he appeared for the first time. Then, he fought and finished off an advanced profound death stage expert. That subsequently caused quite a big commotion during that period of time. After that incident, there were other rumors circulating about him as well. It was rumored that the Flame Divine Hall's Tang Xinlian, as well as the 1,000 Elephant Mountain's Zhu Zi, both fought against him. However, they didn't seem to fare so well. Hence, the first place on the rookie list is firmly secured by him. If Big Brother Lin Dong bumps into him, I wonder who will be stronger. Lin Dong could not help but chuckle as he rubbed Mu Lingshan's head and replied, "He is a vicious individual. I do not wish to provoke him unless I have to." A year ago, he had just entered the chaotic demon sea. At that time, he had just broken through to the profound life stage. As for Xu Xiu, he had already possessed the strength to kill an advanced profound death stage expert back then. His capabilities even caused Lin Dong to feel shock and dread within his heart. It seems like there are indeed many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this chaotic demon sea. If such an individual participated in this lightning competition, Lin Dong, who wanted to retrieve the trace of lightning essence, might have to face off against the former in the end. As for the eventual result, even Lin Dong was curious to find out. Let's go. We've got to rush to the Flame Sea region first. Looking at the time, the so-called lightning competition should be starting very soon. Lin Dong tossed the scroll within his hand over to Mu Lingshan with a smile on his face. However, his smile was slightly more solemn than before. Others might be unaware of the reason why the Flame Divine Hall chose to organize the lighting competition. However, Lin Dong was absolutely clear about it. Using the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol as bait, Mo Luo and his Flame Divine Hall wanted to lure out those Yimo hiding in this world. This was a massive and daring plan. Lin Dong could only imagine the upheaval that would result from this matter. Life forms like Yimo were something alien to the people. However, to those experts who had some understanding of the past, they would know how frightening these Yimo were. Furthermore, what brought a chill to people's hearts were that Yimo were unable to coexist with any other life forms in this world. The reason they came over was to devour everything in this world. Hence, they were the common enemy of every human living in this world. As to whether Mo Luo's plan would succeed, Lin Dong was unable to make a concrete judgment. Although it's said that Mo Luo had gathered quite a few top-tier experts, those Yimo were the scourge of the disaster in the ancient times. As he thought of this point, Lin Dong shook his head gently, restraining those complicated thoughts and moods in his mind. He knew that he was currently unqualified to participate in such matter. However, as an ancestral symbol owner, he knew that he definitely had to play a part in supervising the development of this matter. Exhaling gently, Lin Dong raised his head to look at the line created by the sea and the sky in the far distance. Looking at the sky over there, storm clouds seemed to converge together, pressurizing down on the ground below. The Flame Sea region was a considerably large stretch of sea region in the chaotic Demon Sea. Within this sea region, there wasn't any other factions. In this place, there was only one overlord, the Flame Divine Hall. They were undeniably the ruler and overlord of this sea region. Numerous powerful experts akin to the number of the clouds were converging in the chaotic Demon Sea. Compared to the Eastern Xian region, the large powers here were clearly locked in an even more complicated relationship. Occupying such a gigantic sea region alone was no easy feat. The main reason why the Flame Divine Hall was able to do so was because of Mo Luo. Samsara Stage. Wielder of the blazing ancestral symbol. 2 simple titles. Yet, even those top-tier reincarnation stage experts would not dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect towards him. In this sea region, there had hardly been anyone who dared to challenge the authority of the Flame Divine Hall. Even those big factions would uncharacteristically choose to retrain themselves when they reached this sea region. When Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan arrived at the Flame Sea region, it was already 5 days later. Standing on the top of a giant whale, Lin Dong gazed towards the sea region before him, which was dyed a faint red color, while shock and astonishment flashed uncontrollably within his eyes. Upon entering this sea region, he was able to sense that there was an extremely berserk and fiery energy contained beneath the sea. There's a continuous chain of volcanoes under the Flame Sea region. Don't assume that this sea region is calm by judging it by its surface. Below the surface, you'll see countless volcanoes erupting and spewing lava. If one reckless rushes about, even experts at profound death stage will wound up in an extremely miserable state. As a member of the immortal sage whale clan, Mu Lingshan was clearly exceedingly familiar about the underground structure of the sea. Nodding his head faintly, Lin Dong proceeded to smile while replying, "Let's go. We've got to head straight to the fiery flame city in the center of the sea region." As his voice rang out, Lin Dong took the lead and rushed forward. Patting the giant whale gently, Mu Lingshan followed behind. Wagging its giant tail, it rapidly submerged into the sea. As the giant whale submerged, Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan transformed into 2 streaks of light, rapidly shooting straight towards the deepest part of the sea region. As of now, this flame sea region was exceeding lively. Countless streaks of light shot across the sky, covering the skies as all of them headed in a unified direction. This sight appeared rather glorious and magnificent. As they gradually headed into the deepest part of the flame sea region, Lin Dong was able to see large groups of people wearing fiery red armor scuttling around time to time. Wearing helmets, their eyes were sharp and acute as they continuously scanned their surroundings. Looking at these army-like groups in his vicinity, Lin Dong was able to spot the flame insignia on their chests. That was the emblem of the Flame Divine Hall. Obviously, they were the enforcement units of the Flame Divine Hall. Looking at those highly trained guards, Lin Dong could not help but to nod his head. The Flame Divine Hall is undeniably one of the giants in the chaotic Demon Sea. The Flame Sea region was rather vast and expansive, and it comprises a dense network of islands. Where Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan wanted to go was the Fiery Flame City, the headquarters of the Flame Divine Hall. That was incidentally the location of the lightning competition. When Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan approached the Fiery Flame City, it was already dusk. Upon reaching, a scarlet-red continent appeared in the distance. On the continent, an enormous and seemingly endless gigantic city, akin to an ancient fire dragon sitting on the land, stood above the sea region. A gigantic scarlet red light barrier, akin to an flipped bowl, enveloped the entire city. Considerably frightening energy fluctuations radiated out from its surface. Due to this energy, even the surrounding space showed subtle signs of warping and distorting. Countless streaks of light rained down from the surroundings of the city, akin to a torrential rain. Finally, they passed through the light screen and entered into that mega city. Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan slowly descended from the sky, before entering the gigantic and majestic city. The instant they entered, a noisy din that rushed towards the sky greeted them, causing Lin Dong's head to ring for a while. Promptly, he proceeded to bitterly laugh at the frightening sea of people in the city. Could it be that all the famed experts in the chaotic Demon Sea have all gathered here? Big Brother Lin Dong. It's said that Fiery Flame City has a guest welcoming pavilion. Anyone that's participating in the lightning competition will be there. Shall we head over there? Looking at this lively city, excitement surfaced within Mu Lingshan's eyes as she spoke out with a smile. Yep. Lin Dong nodded his head. As of now, various local tyrants and bullies have already gathered at that place. When those rowdy people were gathered together, it might lead to a rather interesting sight. With that in mind, the two of them didn't linger around as they directly headed for the so-called guest welcoming pavilion, which was rather eye-catching even in this fiery flame city. After approximately 10 minutes, the two of them appeared right before the guest welcoming pavilion. Within the gigantic and extensive pavilion, there were quite a few guards wearing scarlet red armor with intrepid auras radiating out of them. Those guards looked rather strict and solemn. It seems like the Flame Divine Hall had spent quite a bit of effort for the sake of maintaining order, especially in this location. There were various young experts from the chaotic Demon Sea gathered here, and none of them were pushovers. Entering the guest welcoming pavilion did not require much complicated checks. Hence, the two of them were able to enter successfully. Upon walking past the large doors, a scorching hot atmosphere instantly greeted them. What greeted their eyes was a wide and spacious hall, with people scattered in every corner, and an extraordinary atmosphere. Scanning his surroundings, Lin Dong's eyes narrowed faintly, while slight shock appeared within his heart. With just a cursory glance, he was able to sense quite a few powerful and intrepid aura fluctuations radiating out from around him. It seems like his competitors are all pretty skilled. Lin Dong? Just as Lin Dong was surveying the various experts in his surroundings, a familiar and sweet-sounding voice that brought along with it slight surprise and happiness rang out suddenly from his back. After gawking slightly before panning his head back, he was greeted by a few familiar faces. This video will end here.